welcome the incredible Ellis!
Bonjour!
Nice.
Bonjour. Is this for me?
Yeah, this is all
Thank you. I'll have a little lie down.
Thank you so much for being here with us. We're so glad to have you here in Belgium for Heroes Comic Con Belgium. Again, maybe a round of applause for Tom Ellis to show the love.
Wow. This place is massive.
It is. Yes, and Belgium is a very small country, but we have massive...
This is bigger than Belgium, this room. This is crazy.
Is it your first time in Belgium?
It's my first time in IMAX. It's not my first time. My first time in Belgium, I was 6 years old, and my parents, being the parents that they were, we were towing a caravan to Hungary. Yeah, and we stopped in a few places, and Belgium was one of them. But I've never been to Brussels before, so
there you go.
It's very lovely to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we're here in a festival where a lot of fans show their love, enjoy meeting people they really cherish. I wonder, your connection to fans through social media, how would you say you deal with that? Because it's kind of new for the profession of acting. It wasn't the case that 15 years ago we got to connect that way. Would you say it's work? Would you say it's all fun? Or is it like 50-50? What's your relation to social media? Because you have 9 million followers, I think.
Something like that, yeah. It's interesting. So I think I'm Gen X, right?
Yes.
Yes, I'm Gen X, which means social media doesn't come naturally to me. It's something that I was encouraged to take part in when it first started to gain momentum. So probably about 10 years ago. And you know, we were encouraged as actors on the show that I was doing to use social media to engage with the audience, and it was a new way of advertising, I suppose, a new way of kind of interacting. Obviously, on the show that I can't name, but the show that we know, I have been a recipient of the very positive side of social media, in that the show did a few seasons, then it was cancelled, and then social media was what saved us. And for that, I will be eternally grateful. It was an incredibly overwhelming experience to have that amount of positivity coming in our direction. On a personal level, since then, whilst I appreciate social media for what it is, I also feel that it can be negative as well, and I think that can be quite difficult for people. And I think that it's not a natural thing for me to do. If I'm having a nice time in life, I don't think, oh, I need to just get my phone and show people. I'd rather be present in the moment. But at the same time, there are many people, my wife included, who use it very differently. And I appreciate that. But I just think it's something that I have a sort of love-hate relationship with it. I love it for all the positive things we just talked about, and I'm quite happy to never look at it again.
Well, life is a contradiction.
Exactly.
Another question about your fan base. It is very special in that way that you have as many male as female fans. It's not that common. A bit like Bruce Willis in the end of the 80s compared to Schwarzenegger and Stallone. Like, he would get that kind of attention. What do you think is about you that make you interesting for such a wide fan base?
That is a really difficult question to answer. I think again, I became popular through the show that I was doing, and I think that having met so many fans of the show over the last few years, it's been very apparent that it's a show that reaches so many different people, so many different age groups. And I think like the most refreshing thing for me to hear is when people say, oh, I love your show, I watch it with my mum, or I watch it with my grandma, I watch it with my granddad, I watch it with my brother, with my sister. It feels like a show that people don't necessarily always watch on their own. They share it with people, and multi-generational as well. And I can't give you an exact answer as to why that is, but there aren't a lot of shows like that. And so I think that that's, again, I've had a very positive response because of that, because it is so far-reaching and it does have a kind of a broad spectrum of fans.
Did you feel that right away, that it was very broad, or did it take time?
I think it took a little bit of time to build up, but and it's continual. It continues to grow, the fan base, and it's always lovely to meet new fans that have come to the show. But yeah, it's been a momentum from the start, and I think certainly when we went onto Netflix, that momentum really started to build because it was being seen by so many people around the world at the same time, and they were all on the same page, as opposed to in the olden days, you'd make a show and then a few years later that show would get shown in a different country, and those people would be far behind on storytelling. But when you're in something that everyone's watching at the same time across the world, it's quite overwhelming, actually.
I wonder, there's been many shows, films, in which you were adapting a literary character. What's your relation to that? Because you've done several. Do you dive in deeply into the source material? Do you shy away from it? Maybe shy away wouldn't be the good verb, but do you keep away from it, or do you dive in?
I mean, I've answered this question about that show again before, because I didn't know when I went in for the first audition for it that it was based on a comic book. I had no idea about that. I just thought, this is a really interesting take on that biblical character. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't know that it was based on what it was, because it probably would have polluted my thought process a little bit. And, think from things as simple as the character in the comics had blonde hair, and I would have gone, I'm not getting this part, he's got blonde hair. I mean, that's game over for me. Or they're going to have to dye my hair and I'll look ridiculous. So I think it wouldn't have been helpful in that sense for me on that one. But certainly, in other jobs, and if you're playing like an actual figure from real life, a historical figure, for example, then I think it's really important to do research, and it's really important to get a sense of who that person was and how they were perceived in the world amongst their peers and things like that. So it just depends, but I think research is always a very important thing for actors to do.
And about those characters that people are familiar with, whether it's from the Bible or from a comic book, or from elsewhere, we hear in those conversations that characters come again and then absorb current themes, current debates. What's your take on this? Because sometimes it's pretty divisive of the protection of an idea we have of a character, and then the enjoyment of saying, I've never looked at it this way. What's your take on that whole conversation?
I mean, I understand why people get protective of certain characters, because ultimately that's what you fall in love with. I mean, if you take someone like James Bond, for example, right? Everyone's got their favourite Bond.
Which would be your...
Sean Connery, obviously. But, and I'm sure there were people, when Sean Connery was no longer James Bond, had lots of things to say about the next one, and again the next one. And people feel very kind of locked into their kind of vision of something, or the vision that's appeared for them. Playing the devil, there was many incarnations of film and TV devils. And I didn't think of any in particular that I really wanted to kind of set my kind of stall on, apart from Peter Cook in Bedazzled, an old movie with Dudley Moore. And there was something about Peter Cook and his cheekiness and his delivery that I was like, that's the kind of sweet spot for me. And that really kind of resonated with the material that I was reading as well. So. You're never going to please everybody, especially if you're playing a part that people think they already know. But it's always nice to surprise people. And I always think it's interesting to take a character and make them relevant to either present day or the time that you're trying to, talk about, or where your story is set.
And that Peter Cook character became Elizabeth Hurley in a remake years after, so that was a big surprise, I guess.
Absolutely.
And some people really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I like Elizabeth Hurley, but not for that.
I wonder again about, I'm going to take you back to Belgium. Do you know Tintin?
I know Tintin, yeah. I mean, I don't know him that well, but I know he's got a dog called Snowy.
Yes,
yeah.
Very true. What would be your take on Tintin if tomorrow you had to start working on a show about him?
Well, I'm too old to play him now, surely.
Well, that would be your version.
I don't know, really. What would be my... I don't know. I don't know how I'd approach that. Again, I'd look at his hair colour and go, well, I'd have to go blonde again and get a little flick at the front.
How about going blue? Do you know the Smurfs?
Do the Smurfs have blue hair, or is it all... They're all the skin's blue, but they wear white hats.
Know what they have.
Yeah. I mean, I'd go for that. I could blue up for you.
So I feel like we should talk about the strike. Obviously, it's been going on for a few months now.
Yeah.
And without going into the specifics of this show or that project, how has your life, your professional life, changed since it started?
Well, I'm not working. My wife isn't working. My wife is a writer and a member of the WGA. So there's two.
Also striking.
The WGA, the Writers Guild, are on strike, and SAG are on strike, the Screen Actors Guild. It's changed in so much as we've had some time to spend with each other, which has been lovely. But in terms of, professionally, it's just very strange, especially like very soon after COVID and lockdown. It felt like the world was getting its momentum back, or certainly our world was getting its momentum back. And then again, it stopped, and it feels a very similar feeling at times of like, what am I going to do today? That being said, I think it's really important. Obviously striking is a last resort. No one ever wants to strike. But in this particular instance, it's the only thing we could do. And it's the only way to be listened to. And so, it's been, I'm sure, frustrating for people in the audience not being able to talk about things like this and talk about shows properly, and it's been frustrating for us about just wanting to go to work and make things. It's been hard on our crews who rely on the industry to make their living and rely on it much more on a week-to-week basis, and so it's been tough, but I think there is a general understanding amongst anyone who works within the industry that this had to happen in order to get, I hate saying get what we wanted, because that sounds like it's a selfish want. I think get what's fair, finally fair, and I think that's what we're all doing it for.
Thank you. Yeah. And still about the strike. Some actors have voiced their will to play along, but like some criticism. But we've seen you on the picket line. Like, do you talk about the strike a lot with your fellow artists and actors? And
Absolutely, for sure. No, we're all striking, so it's like all we talk about. And I think one thing that's really interesting about it is that it finally. People don't talk about money an awful lot. Like, it was always something that you were taught not to talk about. What are you earning for this and what are you earning for that? And actually, it forced us to get together and talk about those things. There was a sort of a collective understanding of sometimes you think you've been hard done by, and when you realise that it's not just you and it's happening across the board. That was something that sort of solidified and unified people as well, and yeah, I think it's a common theme amongst many of my peers, the same struggles that we have, or the same things that we believe would be fair.
there might also be the sense that there might be an opportunity there of like not only gaining what's fair, but also saying like maybe we can think about the future of this industry, because it's been changing. You mentioned it. It's been changing so much. What do you hope for the future?
Well, I think one of the reasons that this is happening now is that the industry really took a big change about, probably about 7 or 8 years ago with the introduction of streaming. And streaming has been both wonderful in terms of, it's changed TV and film. We can watch things in our home as and when we want to. And there's so much more out there being made. But as a business model, what works for the streamers, for the big companies making these things, doesn't work for the people that are making the things. And so, moving forward, I think the understanding is that streaming is here and is here to stay. So acknowledging that, and acknowledging that streaming is no longer just watching things on YouTube, which basically the contracts are archaic in that sense. When we talk about like making TV and film, it's still under the same guise as if you made something for YouTube, and that's what's being sorted out at the moment. It's something, again, like I said, it has to happen, but it's happening now in order to create a new set of rules moving forward, and those rules had to be changed, basically.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move to questions from the audience. So volunteers are in the room. They're going to share a mic, which actually is a cube, a blue cube. So raise your hands. Some of you are already doing it. And at some point, one hand will receive a cube in their hands. Please use the cube wisely, meaning speak very close to the mic. We need to hear you properly, and also keep in mind that we're going to accept some questions, and some might be outside of the line. And if you want to share your love, share your love. But Tom won't be answering some questions because, as we've mentioned here, we're respecting a framework that's a bit specific. I see the cube in one hand. Do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for the recovery video, Tom, from my friend. Thanks so much, because it's really appreciated. We just have maybe one of the toughest questions for you. Why do you choose this shirt today?
Why did I choose this shirt today?
And what does that mean also? We all want to know.
Well, I'm sure as some people will know what the shirt means. It was a text message that my character sent another character on the show that I'm not talking about. And so the flaming sword cut a hole in space and time. I can't remember that bit. Anyway, you get the gist. That's what it is. But yes, it's the only kind of t-shirt I could wear because it's in code. You get me? Okay.
So the cube has found a new person. Please ask your question.
Hi.
Speak into the cube.
Do you have any tips for someone who's struggling with
A bit louder, just a bit louder.
Sorry. Do you have any tips for someone who is struggling with who they are and want to become?
Oh, gosh. Well, I think understanding that as humans we have lots of things that are sort of common denominators amongst us. The most important thing to remember is that we all, within that, have our own unique quality. And no one else possesses that uniqueness. And we spend a lot of time in life comparing ourselves to people and wanting what the other person has and wanting this and wanting that. I think if you can really find out and really appreciate what your own unique quality is and what you have to offer the world, and believe me, we all have something to offer the world, whatever people might tell you, we all have something to offer, then that is the most important thing. Finding out what you are, being proud of what you are, and then you can put that out.
Perfect. Next question. Does somebody have the mic, the cube mic? Yes, please.
I wanted to ask you what
A
you
bit
thought-
louder, again.
Okay, what did you think about the last seasons of Lucifer?
Oh, please, we're gonna move to another question. I'm really sorry. Do you have another question? It's like the cube game.
What? I've never heard of it. Okay, moving on.
Do you have another question in mind that you want to ask? Or maybe we can move to the next one.
Even the next
Your pick. Okay. So let's move
I'm
the
sorry.
question. Yeah, so sorry about that. There we go.
Hi!
Oh, hello. You found the center
sorry.
of the cube, haven't you?
Okay, so I just wanted to say, first of all, you're an amazing actor. I just want to tell you that.
Oh, thank you.
And thank you. I just want to ask you, since you kind of put it in the spirit, would you recommend, not recommend, would you maybe consider playing James Bond on the next movies?
Would I consider it?
Would you consider it?
Well, if they asked me, of course I would.
Well,
I can't imagine a world in which I get a phone call going, they're thinking about you, Tom, what do you think? And I go, do you know what? Nah. I, of course, if I was privileged enough to be put in that position, I think that I would seriously take about 10 seconds before saying yes.
Okay, thank you.
There you go. Would I recommend myself though? Yes, I would do that.
Next question coming right
Wow, he's
at...
quick.
Here we go.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Today is Bisexual Visibility Day, so a national holiday for me. And I wanted to thank you for your representation of bisexuality in a past show. It made me embrace it again, so thank you so much for that. So I wanted to ask you, has it been difficult for you in the first place? How did you think about it? And then afterwards, did you realize that that certain show would have such an impact on the LGBTQ community?
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Do you know what? I didn't really register how impactful that would be for people. And then I started getting contacted by lots of people within the LGBTQ plus community saying thank you for the positive representation. You know, I think the fact that I didn't think about it too much sort of speaks volumes, really, because you know, as an actor, I want to play whatever part, and I want to play that part as truthfully as possible. And so for that character, that was truthful, and for a character to be someone who embraces that and, you know, wants to just be completely open about that to people, and for it to not even to be a thing, right? Not even to be thought of as an othered person because of that, I think was more powerful than I thought about at the time. But I'm absolutely delighted, you know, that we did have that reaction to it, and you know, I love that. I'm talking about it like a community, but I love all of my LGBTQ plus friends and family. You know, I don't think of it like that, which sounds strange, but I don't think of it as an othered community in my head. Although I do, of course, appreciate that society doesn't work like that. I think that we are lucky enough to live in a world now where there are conversations that happen that never happened before, where there is, you know, my kids are growing up in a world where they have conversations at school about things that we didn't have words for things like that when I was growing up, you know? We didn't have words for like people who were trans, for example, you know, or people who didn't want to be identified particularly by any gender conforming thing. We didn't have words for that. And I think it's amazing now in the world that we do have a vocabulary, and it's an ever-growing vocabulary, and therefore, ergo, understanding of, you know, how people are when they're not forced into a corner by conforming to society or what we know society to be. There you go. Happy holiday.
Happy National Day. We're going to move to the next question. I'm guessing someone already... Yes, question please.
Hi, Mr. Ellis.
Hello.
What is your favorite movie of all time?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'll give you my top 3 in no particular order, okay? Shawshank Redemption. Which I love hope. I think hope is a wonderful quality, and I think that is the ultimate film about hope. The original Mary Poppins. And then the last one might be a bit controversial, but Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit.
How many times have you seen it?
I've seen it so many times. And I always cry. I always cry when I'm watching that film. In exactly the same moment, all the time, it always gets me.
What moment?
In the moment, okay.
Are we allowed to mention this?
So you know in the competition at the end,
Yes.
and Lauryn Hill comes on to start the solo bit, and they play that dun, 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 the pianist plays that bit, and you think she's about to start, and then you see her mum come in, and she's obviously lied to her mum about being, and her mum doesn't want to be a singer, her mum wants to get a proper job, and then she's go, and then she starts eventually to sing, and you just see that emotion flood through her mum, and just Lauryn Hill's got the most incredible voice ever. It gets me every time. Like, music is a big part of my life. Gospel music is something that has always really kind of like made the hairs on my arms go up, like they have done now. And something about that film, the first time I watched it, it's always stuck with me. I know it's not a perfect film, but it means a lot to me, and so that's the reason.
Thank you.
There
And
you
we'll
go.
be... Lauren, if you hear us. Next question. Do we have a question? We have a question over there. Yes.
Hi. So this means a lot to me. It's so stressful, but I never thought I'd have the chance to ask you anything. But I love you so much. Like, your character means a lot to me. Lucifer is a huge comfort character for me. Sorry. But like, how do you keep following your dreams? Do you have any tips on that?
How do you keep following your dreams? I mean, well, no one else is going to follow them for you. You know, they're your dreams. So how do you keep going for it? You know, that's up to you. You've got to find a way. Like, if it's your dream and you really think that it's something that's possible, then you have to go for it. I think the hardest thing in life is shutting out the noise from other people, and people that will be negative about things you want to be positive about. And I think that's the hardest thing. And if you can find a way to quiet those voices, then that will really help you in your pursuit. There you go.
Next question. I think we have room for 5 more questions, approximately. Next one is on there.
Hello, my question is, can you do your Lucifer module, please? The module.
Okay, I think I understand the question, and I understand what it is you truly desire.
Yeah.
And I think we should leave it at that before I get in trouble.
Next question. There we go.
Hi, Tom.
Hello.
We talk about your favorite movies. What's your favorite music?
My favourite music?
Yes.
Well, a favourite band?
Favorite band.
Oh my goodness me. I think that's such a tough question. I love, because I grew up with such an eclectic kind of taste in music. I was part of orchestras. My mum and dad listened to classical music all the time. We didn't really have much like rock and roll or pop music in our house growing up. So, I mean, it goes right through from like Mozart through to, I don't know, AC/DC. It's crazy. But I think if I was going to like have one band that I could listen to for the rest of my life, it would probably be Queen. There you go.
Next question. Where is it? It's over there.
Hi. First, thank you for being here. I hope you'll enjoy Belgium and all our beers and all that. My question is, as an European, how it is living in America? What do you struggle with? What do you miss?
Culture.
Sorry.
Gosh, they are so different. Here's the thing, right? America is a country, except it's not. It's 50 different countries, much like Europe, right? And Europe has got all these different countries, and we've all got our, our way of doing things and our way of being, and that's what America's like. So no one place is the same in America, as no one place is really the same in Europe. What do I miss? Certainly when I'm in Los Angeles, I miss things like architecture, because LA is a really new city still, it's kind of like 1890 or something like that was when it's, I live in a house that's 1920 in LA, and people go, oh my God, your house is so old. And I go, yeah, not really. But I'm, coming from the UK, I'm coming from Europe, I'm so used to seeing like old buildings and old architecture, and a story in a place of like how it's shifted over time. So certainly miss that. I certainly miss banter when I'm in America. They don't banter very well. Do you know what that means? Like,
how would you describe it though?
Well, certainly in the UK, banter is just about it's about repartee. It's about going back and forward, and it's just, you're not necessarily talking about anything. You're just trying to be funnier and whimsical, and punning on words and things like that. And I think America is a much more literal place, which is both good and bad. But yeah, I think things like taking the piss out of people without them getting upset. That would be, that's a very British thing to do. And in America, I've got in trouble a few times because people don't know that I'm taking the piss. It's funny. I tell you what I find funny is Canada is a really funny country because it's got European sensibilities and a kind of European sense of humour, but they've got an American accent, right? And so Americans are super confused about Canadians. They think they're the most passive-aggressive race in the world. It's very true. But if I were to say the same thing in a British accent, they go, oh my God, you're so charming. So yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's funny. They're very, very different places. But yeah, I think the kind of deep cultural elements are the things that I miss.
Yes? I think two more questions, short ones. 1, 2.
Yeah.
We have one question here.
Hello.
Hello.
So thank you for coming, and thank you so much for your words about the LGBTQ community. It means a lot. Since you're in Belgium, I was wondering if you've had the opportunity to try our beer chocolate fries, since they are the best. Of course, you have to try, and how they compare to the food in America, because.
Okay, so I've only been here since I got here last night, so I haven't had beer or chocolate or fries yet, but I'm planning on having that for dinner tonight. But I do, I am a beer person, and I've obviously had my fair share of Belgian beer in the past. Belgian chocolate, I certainly have sampled. Belgian fries, I'm very much looking forward to. Because I have heard that they are the best.
You'll tell us.
I will. I'm looking forward to that. Are they called Belgian French fries? Are they just Belgian fries?
Yeah, it's a weird thing. Yeah, we're not happy about that.
Alright, I'm just asking.
That's not how we say it in French or Flemish.
Okay, so just fries. We'll stick with fries.
And pick the right spot. Ask
Okay.
around.
Okay.
One last question.
And how does it compare to American food? I didn't even get there, but
Sorry.
American food's, it's great. There's just a lot of it. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we have our last question over here. Yes, over there.
Hi, sorry for my English because it's very bad, but my question is, when you were kids, did you thought about being an actor in the future? So
When did I start thinking about being an actor? Yeah. I didn't. I think relatively compared to a lot of people that I've worked with, I think a lot of people decided they wanted to act from a very early age. I actually didn't really. I sort of stumbled across acting when I was 17, and I was doing A-levels in the UK, which is your last 2 years of school, and you basically choose at least three subjects that you were going to sort of specialise in before university. And at that point in time, I wanted to be a physiotherapist and work with like sports injuries and sports recovery and stuff. And during my A-levels, one of the subjects I was doing, I just was not enjoying. And so I dropped it, and then my tutors were like, you have to do a third subject. And I really didn't know what to do. And then my old English teacher came to me and she said, I'm running the theatre studies programme, and I've got 12 girls and 1 boy, and I need some boys. And I was like, I'm going to stop you right there. You've got how many? 12 girls, 1 boy. Yeah, I'm in. So I then, for completely the wrong reasons, went to this theatre studies class, and I just kind of fell in love with it. Over the course of like the next few weeks, the stuff that we were doing in there, I just found it just really appealed to me, and it also felt like it was something that I was good at. And that was it really. I got bitten by the bug, and I didn't really look back after that moment. There you go.
Well, we surely got bitten by Tom Ellis.